Hi, my name is Katherine Caroway, and for my book project, I read Teaching from the Heart, Reflections, Encouragement, and Inspirations by Sharon Draper. Um, in this book, she used her experiences to help current teachers and, for me, more importantly, prospective teachers to motivate them to see the potential teaching has and exactly what the profession entails. Um, for me, there were a lot of topics in the book, but for me, there were like 4 or 5 that really stuck out and were useful for me. Um, First, her explanations of the first day of school and student teaching, uh, I found really interesting because those are the things that you're always wondering about as when you're going through school. You're wondering what it's going to be like your first day. Uh, and then student teaching isn't that far away for some of us, so um, it's interesting just her perspective and how to really prepare yourself for that because uh, if you don't, you're kind of going to be lost. Uh, she really focuses on the student teaching in general and what to expect. And I love that because I'm a worrier and she kind of lays it out for you and is very specific. Like, you need to speak to the teacher first, know if they want you to have your own plans, that kind of stuff. So she really focuses on that for the prospective teacher. Um, and then she also gives advice for first year teachers, what to do, what not to do, what to expect. And just like student teaching, that's something that really caught my attention because when you're going through the program, you're really thinking about um, what's it going to be like, all the fears of what it's like to be the first year teacher. Because I feel like that's something you don't really, or you're not taught that on the first day you have to set standards for your classroom. It's going to be different than you would ever imagine. You're just kind of thrown into it. Like she said, her first day, she was sent on a field trip with, I think she said like 400 students or something, and you just don't expect that. In some places, they don't take you through each thing and say, this is your classroom, these are going to be your students. You're kind of just thrown into it. So it was just interesting showing how you need to be prepared for whatever happens. Um, and next, like I said, her personal experiences really throughout the whole book, she uses in every chapter just her personal experiences that really, for me, meant a lot because she shows the impact you really have on your students. And um, one example that stuck with me particularly was one about a high school student who was just known throughout the school with all the teachers, the students, this is the bad kid. You're going to have a rough time. He's not going to do anything. He's mean. He was known for beating up people and being like the bully. But she kind of, knowing this before, kind of took him under her wing and she tried to, not have the same issue. And she didn't. And he became the class like lab person. He set up all the labs and helped her bring stuff in, and he did this and was doing great in her class, had good grades, and everybody was like, "What are you doing? Like, is what's something different?" And at one point, he was suspended from school, and she had no idea, and he was still coming in while he was suspended and carrying stuff in from her car and setting up the lab, and then just leaving without anybody knowing. And she eventually did find out, and it just showed the purpose she gave him. He had a rough life. He didn't have a lot that really like meant a lot to him, and she did. And it just showed how her personal experience with him, you can really impact these students. And sometimes the teacher is all they have, the person that cares about them. So for me, that's something that I always look to and I think is so important because there are a lot of kids that all they have is their teacher. We are what helps them have a future. And then lastly, a big theme of her book, I think one of the biggest was her overall attitude towards the teaching profession and its importance. And I think this is really important, especially for all prospective students to understand that teaching is something that you should be proud of. A lot of times people don't exactly hold teaching profession to like the highest regard. compared to doctors and lawyers and all those other um, professions that are out there. And just like she said, which I thought was so funny, is she asked like a group of, I think it was like just a group of students, and none of, I don't think they were going into education, and she said, what was your favorite teacher? What do you remember? And someone said, I didn't really have a great teacher. I didn't have a favorite teacher. And she said, well, who taught you to read, you know? And it just showed that teachers, that they don't get a lot of credit for a lot, but really they have such a huge influence, and no one would really be where they are without the teachers who taught them how to read, how to write, math, all those things. So, I think that it just showed such an importance on teaching, and it even changed my perspective. Even when I'm going in and people are asking me what my major is, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm an education major. It's like, no, I'm in the education program and I'm going to be a teacher. You hold more pride in it, and I think that that's why this book was so important. I think all the students should read this book that are going to be teachers. I mean, it also holds value for current teachers, but in my place in life, I think it's really important for everybody that has an opportunity to read this book to read it. And I just thought it was a really great book, and I'm really happy that it was on the list. And thank you for taking time to listen to my presentation. Uh, Thank you.